For nearly 2,000 years, one book was banned, hidden, and erased from history. They said it was too dangerous for you to read. But tonight, we open the Book of Enoch and reveal the truth they never wanted you to know. Before the Bible was finalized, another book told a different story. A story of angels. A story of forbidden knowledge. A story of a world that was not the same. That book is called the Book of Enoch. Once it was read widely. Early communities treasured it. They believed it carried secrets about heaven and earth. But with time, it vanished. It was banned, forgotten, almost erased. What? Was it just an accident of history? Or was it removed on purpose? The Book of Enoch speaks of beings cast down from the heavens. Beings who shared knowledge humanity was never meant to hold. It describes visions, secrets, and warnings that do not appear in the Bible we know today. And yet, this book did not disappear forever. It survived in silence. Hidden in ancient languages. Preserved in places far from Rome and Jerusalem. Waiting to be found again. Tonight we follow that trail. From the first pages of Genesis, to the mountains of Ethiopia. From the caves of the Dead Sea, to the councils that shaped the Bible itself. This is more than a lost text. It is a story of power, control, and hidden truth. If Enoch was a myth, why did the earliest Christians quote it like prophecy? 3 books. 1 name. 1,000 arguments. But wait, what exactly is the Book of Enoch? First, let's clear the confusion. There isn't just one. There are 3. The first Enoch is the oldest, the longest, and the core text people usually mean when they say Book of Enoch. Second Enoch, also called Slavonic Enoch, was written centuries later in a different region. And then there is Third Enoch, a mystical Hebrew text connected to visions of heaven and angels. So why use the name Enoch? In the ancient world, unknown writers often used the name of a respected figure to give weight to their words. It was a common device called pseudepigrapha, writing under a mask of authority. But how old is it? The earliest layers of First Enoch were likely written between 300 and 200 BC, with more material added by 100 BC. What language carried these secrets? Most scholars agree it began in Hebrew or Aramaic. But the full version survived only in Ge'ez, the ancient language of Ethiopia. And here is the real twist. While most of the world rejected it, the Ethiopian church still holds it as sacred scripture. So, how did a book lost in the West survive whole on the roof of Africa? Vanished for 1,000 years, then a Scot walked it back into Europe. But how did this happen? First we see early echoes. The New Testament letter of Jude directly quotes the Book of Enoch. Early church fathers debated its value. For a while it was part of the conversation. But slowly, it faded from mainstream use. So where did it go? While Europe turned away, Ethiopia held on. This land adopted Christianity early, around the 4th century, and it kept older traditions alive. In its libraries, written in the ancient language of Ge'ez, Enoch survived quietly. Then comes a turning point. In 1773, a Scottish explorer named James Bruce returned from Ethiopia with 3 complete Ge'ez manuscripts. For the first time in centuries, Europe saw the Book of Enoch again. What happened next? In 1821, Richard Lawrence produced the first English translation. Scholars and seekers were stunned. Interest spread fast. And then, the greatest proof of all. Between 1948 and 1956, fragments of Enoch in Aramaic were discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls. Ancient. Authentic. No longer legend, real history. If Enoch is that old, what forbidden story did it insist on telling? 200 angels. 1 oath. A mountain. A fall. But who were these beings? In the Book of the Watchers, their mission was clear. Observe humanity, never interfere. They were called the Watchers. Guardians from heaven, eyes set on earth. So what went wrong? Led by their chief, Samiaza, they stood on Mount Hermon. There 200 angels swore an unbreakable oath. They knew the risk. They knew it was forbidden. But still, they chose desire over duty. What did they do next? They descended to earth. They took human women as wives. The line between heaven and earth broke forever. From these unions came the Nephilim, giants of terrifying size and strength. What was their impact? The Nephilim devoured everything. Crops, animals, even human lives. Violence spread across the earth. What was meant to be guardianship turned into chaos. And how did humanity respond? People cried out. Their voices rose up to heaven. The corruption was too great. The earth itself groaned under the weight of bloodshed. The heavens listened. And judgment was set in motion. Their worst sin wasn't desire, it was the knowledge they gave us next. Wisdom, that corrupts. But what knowledge did the Watchers give? They taught secrets never meant for humans. How to forge weapons of war. How to use enchantments and charms. How to paint faces with seductive powders. How to read the stars as if they were maps of destiny. Was this wisdom, or a trap? Power without guidance twists into pride. Knowledge without balance turns into chaos. What looked like progress quickly became destruction. And what do we see today? Across the ancient world stand mysteries. Megaliths aligned with the heavens. Calendars so precise they track the sky better than early modern science. How did civilizations thousands of years ago learn such things? Were they guided, or corrupted? This is the picture Enoch paints. The Watchers blurred the line between heaven and earth. They gave power before its time. And humanity, too weak to carry it, fell deeper into violence and arrogance. The cry of the earth grew louder. And heaven could not stay silent forever. Heaven moves. 4 archangels descend, and judgment begins. Uriel warns. Raphael binds. Michael confronts. Gabriel destroys. But why did heaven send them? The world had fallen into ruin. Humanity was broken. The Nephilim spread violence across every land. The Watchers had twisted creation. Judgment had to come. So tasks were given. Uriel was sent to warn Noah of a coming flood. Raphael was told to seize Azazel, the angel who taught forbidden knowledge, and chain him beneath sharp rocks in the desert. Michael confronted the leaders of the Watchers, stripping them of power. Gabriel unleashed destruction on the Nephilim until their strength was gone. And where were the rebels cast? Into Tartarus, a prison deep beneath the earth. Not a vague idea of hell, but a real place of chains and shadow. The very word comes from Greek belief, showing echoes across cultures. This idea, that even angels could be bound, troubled later theologians deeply. But the world itself was still polluted. So heaven declared a final act. The great flood would wash the earth clean. And Enoch records the truth: evil is not only human. It is the result of a cosmic rebellion. If that's the origin of evil, no wonder later councils pushed Enoch away. When one book threatens the system chooses its canon. But why was Enoch pushed aside? In the Jewish tradition, the sacred texts slowly came together. The law, the prophets, and the writings built their framework. But Enoch stood outside it. Written in Aramaic, not Hebrew. Filled with visions, not laws. It did not fit. And what about Christianity? As the new faith grew, leaders wanted order. Councils were held: Laodicea, Hippo, Carthage. Lists were drawn of which books could be read in churches. Enoch was not included. But was this only about language? Not at all. The book raised hard questions. Could angels take human form? Could they have children? Could spirits be chained in physical prisons like Tartarus? For many leaders, these ideas were dangerous. Then came Augustine of Hippo. He gave a new explanation. The sons of God in Genesis were not angels, but men from the line of Seth. With this shift, the Watchers vanished from doctrine. And with them the Book of Enoch. But there was another reason. Enoch claimed direct visions of God, without temple, priest, or church. That freedom threatened every institution. Yet inside Enoch lies a figure Christians later recognized by another name: hidden before the sun. Seated beside the Lord of Spirits. But who is this mysterious figure? In chapters 37 to 71 of Enoch, a radiant being appears. He is called the Elect One, the Righteous One, the Son of Man. He is not just a prophet. He is pre-existent, alive before the world began. His role? To bring judgment and to shine as light for the nations. Does this sound familiar? The parallels with later Christian writings are impossible to ignore. Without naming him, Enoch describes a figure that echoes the Christ of the New Testament. How is the scene described? The vision is a cosmic courtroom. The great angels stand arrayed: Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, Phanuel. The Son of Man sits beside the Lord of Spirits, receiving honor, authority, and glory. But is there only judgment? No. Enoch also records a window of mercy. A chance for repentance before the final day. But when that day comes, creation itself will be renewed. This is the tension. A pre-Christian Jewish text, already painting a messianic vision that looks far into the future. Enoch doesn't stop at heaven's throne. It maps the sky itself, down to the week. A 364-day year, and a world told in animals. But what did Enoch see next? He was shown the movement of the heavens. The astronomical book describes a perfect solar calendar, 364 days, 4 equal seasons, each one balanced. Time itself was sacred. It was not something to control but something to obey. What about the stars? Enoch says they were not meant for fortune-telling. Astrology was condemned as a fallen art, a forbidden gift from the Watchers. The stars had one purpose: to teach reverence for the Creator. Then came another vision, the Book of Dreams, also called the Animal Apocalypse. Here, history itself is retold through animals. Adam appears as a white bull. Israel is seen as flocks of sheep. Foreign empires arrive as lions, wolves, and bears. Leaders are shown as rams guiding the flock. But what of the corrupt rulers? Enoch calls them blind shepherds, 70 overseers who failed their task. One by one they are judged and cast down. And in the end, a new white bull appears. A messianic figure. A signal of renewal. For Enoch, history was never random. It was a moral drama, written first in heaven then acted out on earth. And then Enoch writes a letter across time, and divides history into weeks. 10 weeks. One end. A new beginning. But what final vision did Enoch leave behind? In the Epistle of Enoch, the world is divided into only two paths: light or darkness. Every choice, every action shapes not just a person but the destiny of nations. Then comes the apocalypse of weeks. History itself is broken into 10 symbolic ages. The first weeks recall the ancients: Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses. Each one marks a turning point. But what about the later weeks? One speaks of a house burned with fire, a line many connect to the destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem in 70 AD. Others describe corrupt rulers rising to power, only to be exposed and brought low. And what about the last week? Here the vision changes. Judgment arrives. The old world collapses. Yet out of the ashes comes renewal, weeks without number. A new heaven. A new earth. And finally, eternal peace. But does this sound like only ancient prophecy? Even today we uncover ruins older than our timelines suggest. We find echoes of civilizations that rose, fell, and were forgotten. Enoch's warning still whispers, human pride leads always to the same end. The epistle is not just history. It is a map of destiny. If Enoch is a map, where on that map are we, right now?